Some games aren't just classics, they're time capsules. They gave us moments we can't forget, mechanics we still haven't seen done better, and yet they're stuck in the past. So today, we're cracking open the vault to talk about 6 2000s games that deserve a remake. Not a remaster, not a re-release, but a full-blown modern-day resurrection. Let's get into it. Let's start this list off with a straight-up classic, The Simpsons Hit and Run. This 2003 action-adventure game, developed by Radical Entertainment, is still the dream game some of us are waiting on. A lot of kids in the early 2000s didn't get to play the Grand Theft Auto series and were given this gem instead. For those who have been living under a rock or were just too young to get the experience at launch, The Simpsons Hit and Run at its bones is a game where players get to explore a virtual Springfield, completing various missions involving driving and platforming, all while interacting with familiar characters and locations from the popular animated series. Some may argue that it is already a perfect game and it doesn't need a remake. Some say it may not fit into the current era of gaming, with the high likelihood that it would be littered with microtransactions for cars and skins. Those are very valid and understandable concerns. I'm here to tell you,
we do not care.
Call it nostalgia blindness or whatever you want, but if we could get a remake of the original with the advances in tech and budgets allowed, we could have a more fleshed out game, adding a few more platforming areas and giving us some variety between missions. Unfortunately, according to some of the information and speculation out there while researching for this video, the Hit and Run series will most likely never see the light of day. Apparently, the reason we never got a sequel, quite possibly the reason we might not get a remake, is that the rights are really complex. Every decision on the game had to be vetted internally, then by the game publisher, then by Fox, and then by the Simpsons Group. On top of all of this, Groening had veto power personally over the whole thing. So in conclusion, who knows if it'll ever get a remake, but at this point, I just want to have another Simpsons game to play. I wouldn't even mind if they ported the current game over to PC and console and added achievements for completing levels and collectibles. But what do you think? Does Hit and Run deserve a remake, or is it more risk than it's worth? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Let's move on to a game that defined over-the-top snowboarding and pure fun, SSX Tricky. Released in 2001 by EA Sports Big, this arcade-style snowboarding masterpiece took what the first SSX did and cranked the dial all the way up. For a lot of kids in the early 2000s, this was the cool game. Bright colors, wild tricks, crazy soundtrack, and characters that felt larger than life. It had personality dripping from every icy slope. At its bones, SSX Tricky is all about the insane downhill races, pulling off gravity-defying tricks that look like they'd shatter every bone in your body if you crashed. But instead of realism, it embraced the chaos, rewarding players with the iconic shout every time you chain together moves. Does it need a remake? Some argue no. It's a perfect arcade sports game. Others say modern graphics, online play, and expanded customization to breathe new life into it. Personally, I think if we can get yet another gritty sports sim every year, we can get one remake of the most stylish snowboarding game ever made. The only real tragedy is how EA buried the series instead of letting it thrive. Will we see it again? Probably not. But man, one more ride down those neon-lit mountains wouldn't hurt. Now here's one a lot of people missed out on. PsyOps: The Mindgate Conspiracy. Released in 2004 by Midway Games, it combined third-person shooter mechanics with psychic superpowers in a way that still feels unique even now. You played as Nick Scryer, a soldier with telekinetic abilities, pyrokinesis, mind control, and plenty more. Here's the kicker though. These weren't gimmicks, they were fully integrated into the gameplay. You could fling enemies into walls, set them on fire, rip weapons out of their hands, or even turn them against each other. It was very creative for what was available at that time. Does it deserve a remake? Absolutely. Modern physics engines could make the psychic powers feel insanely immersive. Imagine tossing enemies in the Unreal Engine with the ragdoll physics it has, or bending the environment like a real telekinetic god. Sadly, Midway went bankrupt, and these rights are pretty much in limbo, so a remake is probably very unlikely, but if there's one cult classic screaming for another shot, it's this one. Next up, a game that made parents panic just by the title, Dante's Inferno. Released in 2010 by Visceral Games, this was EA's attempt to ride the wave of God of War style hack and slash games. Instead of Greek mythology though, they gave us a brutal tour through the 9 circles of hell based on Dante Alighieri's famous poem. At its core, the game is a violent, fast-paced, combo-heavy action brawler, but what made it stand out was the atmosphere. Grotesque monsters, twisted landscape, and some of the most disturbing level designs of its era. It wasn't perfect, but it was ambitious. Would it work today? 100%. A remake could lean even harder into the horror elements, give us more modern combat systems, and maybe even expand the story beyond just retelling the poem. The biggest issue was that Dante's Inferno ended with a clear setup for a sequel, and we just never got one. EA shelved the whole thing. So in the end, this game is remembered as a one-hit wonder, a brutal ride into hell that deserved way more love than it got. Next up, let's talk about a game that ate up so many hours of our childhood, LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga. Released in 2007, it mashed together the first 2 LEGO Star Wars games, letting players experience all 6 movies in brick format. The core loop is simple: puzzle platforming, combat, and collecting studs. But what made it special was the charm, goofy humor, endless replayability, tons of unlockable characters, and co-op that made it perfect for siblings and friends. Do we need a remake? Well, we kinda got one with LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, but even with that, there's something magical about the Complete Saga. The simplicity, the charm, the fact that it wasn't overloaded with mechanics. If you ask me, a modern polish while keeping that classic LEGO humor would make it perfect for a family game night. And last but not least, we've got a Nintendo classic, Super Mario Sunshine. Released in 2002 for the GameCube, this was Mario's tropical vacation gone horribly wrong. Instead of just hopping on Goombas, Mario was armed with Flood, a water-spraying backpack that let him clean up Isle Delfino and platform in all new ways. It's a simple 3D Mario platformer, exploration, collecting shines, and pulling off tricky jumps. But the water mechanics made it stand out. Some fans loved it, others thought it was the black sheep between Mario 64 and Galaxy. Does it need a remake? Honestly, it just needs some polish. We got a port in the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, but a full-on remake with modern graphics, smoother controls, and maybe expanded areas could finally give Sunshine the recognition it deserves. As divisive as it is, it's still one of the most creative Mario games ever made. And there you have it, some of the greatest retro games that are just begging for a proper remake. Whether it's the chaos of Springfield, the mind-bending powers of Psyops, or snowboarding off a mountain in SSX Tricky. These games prove one thing: the past still has unfinished business. But hey, I want to hear from you. What retro game do you think deserves a remake the most? Drop it in the comments and I'll be checking them out. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more gaming content, and ring that bell notification so you don't miss out on the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me, and until next time, keep gaming. Let's hope these remakes actually happen.